Alright everyone, we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We've got this article in the New York Times right here titled, "Has the Decline of Knowledge Work Begun? The unemployment rate for college graduates has risen faster than for other workers over the past few years. How worried should they be?" Now, I've done one video like this on this channel before where I reacted to an article. If you haven't seen that yet, you can check that out right here. The subject is nothing new for this channel. We'll be talking about college graduates and everyone really struggling in the job market in 2025. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to watch more videos just like this one. We're trying to get to 2,500 subscribers right now. We're really close. And with that being said, let's get into this article. This is by Noam Scheiber, and he says, when Starbucks announced last month that it was laying off more than 1,000 corporate employees, it highlighted a disturbing trend for white-collar workers. Over the past few years, they have seen a steeper rise in unemployment than other groups and slower wage growth. Now, I couldn't find exact statistics. Wait, actually, I take that back. I just remembered I did. Here we have a chart. Difference between the inflation rate and growth of wages in the United States from December 2020 to December 2024. Now, the important thing to note about this chart is that this is wages for everybody, not just people with a bachelor's degree. This includes people with just a high school diploma or even no diploma, and people with advanced degrees as well. So you can see the big spike in inflation during 2022. Inflation is the black line, wage growth is the blue line. So in June 2022, we saw wage growth of 6.7% and inflation of 9.1%. Now, weren't those just fun times? So in June 2022, if you got a raise of 6.7% from where your hourly rate or your salary was, you didn't really get a raise. If the raises you're getting at your job are less than the rate of inflation, you're just losing money. Now, if this is what it looks like for everyone, think about what it looks like for more white-collar workers who have bachelor's degrees, typical office workers. Their wage growth is slower than other groups, which is not usually what has happened historically. Usually white-collar work sees better wage growth than other sectors of the economy, but right now that's not the case, so let's keep going. After sitting below 4% for more than 2 years, the overall unemployment rate has topped that threshold since May. Economists say that the job market remains strong by historical standards, maybe for the employers, and that much of the recent weakening appears connected to the economic impact of the pandemic. Companies hired aggressively amid surging demand, then shifted to layoffs once the Federal Reserve began raising interest rates. Many of these companies have sought to make their operations leaner under pressure from investors. If any of you are wondering why so many companies have been laying off people in the last few years, this is why. This is the exact reason. 2022 was a god-awful year for the stock market. It was a total bear market. And one of the many reasons was that companies were spending a lot more money than they were previously. Meta was throwing billions of dollars away on the metaverse. And when interest rates went up, investors said, okay, if you aren't going to be growing as quickly as you were before, you better start cutting down your costs. We need to see some returns here. And then you saw all of the big tech companies lay off a ton of employees, and then it trickled into other sectors of the economy as well. And now we are here with over a 4% unemployment rate. But amid rapid advances in artificial intelligence and President Trump's targeting of federal agencies which disproportionately support white-collar jobs, some wonder if a permanent decline for knowledge work has begun. We're seeing a meaningful transition in the way work is done in the white-collar world, said Carl Tannenbaum, the chief economist of Northern Trust. I tell people a wave is coming. To date, few industries epitomize the shift of the last few years better than the making of video games, which began a boom in 2020 as couch-bound Americans sought out new forms of home entertainment. the industry hired aggressively before reversing course and embarking on a period of layoffs. Thousands of video game workers lost jobs last year and the year before. The scale of the job loss was such that the host of the Game Developers Choice Awards, the industry's annual awards show, complained about record layoffs during her opening monologue in 2024. That same year, a unionization trend that had begun with lower paid quality assurance testers spread to better paid workers like game producers, designers, and engineers at companies that make the hit games Fallout and World of Warcraft. At Bethesda Game Studios, which is owned by Microsoft and makes Fallout, workers said they unionized partly because they were alarmed by rounds of layoffs at the company in 2023 and 2024, and felt that a union would give them leverage in a softening labor market. It was the first time that Bethesda had experienced layoffs in a very, very long time, said Taylor Welling, a producer at the studio, who holds a master's degree in interactive entertainment. That scared a lot of people. Microsoft declined to comment. All right, I'm going to get a little off topic here because I'm someone who follows the games industry a bit. I enjoy playing video games. I'm a guy. This is exactly right. There are a ton of people who got laid off because these companies overhired during 2020 and 2021 because there was such a higher demand for video games because, people were stuck at home, obviously. And the games industry has yet to see that kind of demand again. I'm pretty sure that the biggest gaming publishers that are on the stock market, I'm pretty sure that a lot of them have yet to get back to their all-time highs. EA stock right now is basically trading where it was 5 years ago. Take-Two is in a similar position, although they've seen some pretty good gains. And now, I'm not going to say that anyone deserves to get laid off, but also there were a ton of terrible games being made during this time. It's funny how you don't hear about these layoffs happening in Japan because the devs over there know how to actually make video games. But in terms of companies like Bethesda, if you're owned by a big tech giant like Microsoft, which is notoriously cutthroat when it comes to layoffs, this is just part of the game, unfortunately. And it sucks that a lot of people got laid off, but at the end of the day, it's like, this happens. These companies aren't charities, and you can't treat it as such. You have to be ready for this to happen. But moving on from that little tangent, unemployment in finance and related industries, while still low, increased by about a quarter from 2022 to 2024, as rising interest rates slowed demand for mortgages and companies sought to become leaner. That makes sense. On an earnings call last summer, the chief executive of Wells Fargo noted that the company's efficiency initiatives had pruned the company's workforce for 16 straight quarters, including a nearly 50% reduction of workers in the company's home lending division since 2023. Wow. So they wiped out like half of their department, essentially. Imagine being in that department and 50% of your colleagues are gone. That is crazy. Last fall, Wells Fargo laid off about 1/4 of the roughly 45 employees on its conduct management intake team, which reviews accusations of company misconduct against customers and employees. Heather Rolfs, a lawyer who was let go, said that she believed the company was seeking to save money by shrinking its U.S. workforce and that she and her colleagues were a tempting target because they had recently sought to unionize. Okay, well, if there is one company that needs a team which reviews misconduct allegations against customers, it's Wells Fargo. If you know, you know. I think it was great for them to get rid of 2 birds with 1 stone, Ms. Rolfs said. Some of her former coworkers say they anxiously await every Tuesday after a payday because that's when the company tends to inform workers about job cuts. We feel like at any moment we could be laid off, said Eden Davis, another worker on the team. Yeah, that's not good. And when you're in that mindset of like, oh, I'm about to get laid off, I could be getting laid off, you're not going to be doing your best work. The way this is written, it makes it sound like they're just laying off people every week. Every Tuesday, they're going to do another round of cuts. A Wells Fargo spokesman said in a statement that the layoffs had nothing to do with the union and that, quote, we regularly review and adjust staffing levels to align with market conditions. He noted that 2 managers on the team had also lost their jobs. I feel like most white-collar jobs, you are significantly less likely to have the opportunity to even be in a union compared to more blue-collar work. There are definitely exceptions to this rule, but I think that's one of the reasons why we have seen so many white-collar layoffs is because unless you're in a union, a company can fire you or let you go at any time for any reason. If you're in a union, you usually have more protections. They have to go through a bit more of a process if they want to let someone go. But for the people who aren't in unions, maybe they're in a more senior position, they're at one of these cutthroat, publicly traded companies that has investors to please. It's like any day it could happen to you too. You just never know. Overall, the latest data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York show that the unemployment rate for college grads has risen 30% since bottoming out in January 2022 to 2.6% from 2%, versus about 18% for all workers to 4% from 3.4%. An analysis by Julia Pollack, chief economist of ZipRecruiter, shows that unemployment has been most elevated among those with bachelor's degrees or some college but no degree, while unemployment has been steady or falling at the very top and bottom of the education ladder for those with advanced degrees or without a high school diploma. Hiring rates have slowed more for jobs requiring a college degree than other jobs, according to ADP Research, which studies the labor market. Some economists say that these trends may be short-term in nature and little cause for concern on their own. Lawrence Katz, a labor economist at Harvard, noted that the uptick in employment for college-educated workers was only modestly larger than the increase in unemployment overall, and that unemployment for both groups remained low by historical measures. Professor Katz argued that slower growth in wages for upper middle class workers could simply reflect a discount that these workers effectively accepted in return for being able to work from home. Data from the Liberal Economic Policy Institute shows that wages for workers in the 70th and 80th percentiles of the income distribution have grown more slowly than any other group since 2019. So I think it's pretty clear from all of the statistics that we are seeing that people with a bachelor's degree are getting more affected by everything going on economically than other groups of people. I mean, think about the clips that we react to on this channel. It's mostly people who are on the earlier side in their career, lots of college graduates, a lot of people who went into fields like marketing and things like that. And on the occasion where we see someone who has a little bit more experience and who's maybe in their mid-career and they're back in the job market, they say that it's the worst they've ever seen it. They can't find a job the way that they used to. We almost never see blue-collar workers talking about getting laid off except for this one instance in my comment section. I got this comment that says, "My uncle, an electrician, got laid off a few weeks ago," and someone replied saying, "An electrician needs jobs to do. If people are laid off and broke, there might be fewer and fewer jobs to do. People will try to save and cut corners the best they can. It's a ripple effect." This is a great point. And that shows how one sector of the economy can impact another. That's so interesting. So the more people that get laid off, the less money that goes into services in different parts of the economy, which can also lead to more job losses. This is starting to sound a lot like the recipe for a recession, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Let's keep going in this article. There are other signs that the returns on a college degree may have shifted over a longer period. The gap in wages between those with a college degree and those without one grew steadily beginning in 1980, but flattened during the past 15 years, though it remains high. The flattening may partly reflect that there are more college-educated workers for employers to choose from, as college attendance has increased, but some economists argue that it reflects employers' reduced need for college graduates. For example, fewer jobs like bookkeeping as information technology has become more sophisticated. Such jobs don't necessarily require a college degree, but were often attractive to graduates because they once paid them a relatively high wage. I think it has to be a combination of both, because the fact is there has never been a time in American history where we have had as many college graduates as we do right now. For the longest time, college was only reserved for the wealthy. People didn't send their kids to college. Most people didn't go to college. But we're at a point now where sending your kid to college is the expectation rather than the exception. And as for the other point that this article pointed out, it is true that there's less entry-level work available for college graduates, as we're about to see as we get into these next couple paragraphs. Artificial intelligence could reduce that need further by increasing the automation of white-collar jobs. A recent academic paper found that software developers who used an AI coding assistant improved a key measure of productivity by more than 25%, and that the productivity gains appeared to be largest among the least experienced developers. That's very interesting. The results suggested that adopting AI could reduce the wage premium enjoyed by more experienced coders, since it would erode their productivity advantage over novices. Man, that's got to be so scary to read for anyone who's in IT or studied computer science in college, because that used to be the ticket. You know, you go to school, you get a degree in computer science, and you, just like that, you get a job at Google. You know, this is what people did for the longest time, but it's obvious that it's just not that simple anymore. I mean, you see on social media how many computer science majors are just struggling out here. And it's so sad to see, because they did everything right. They went to good schools, they chose a major which supposedly has a real-world application, but that demand for computer science graduates just seems to be getting smaller and smaller. It's absolutely insane. And as this pointed out, it has an impact on people who have been working in this field for years, because your experience is your most valuable asset in any job market. And if AI is allowing less experienced people to do your job at a similar level, then you've just lost a ton of negotiating power. Mert Demirer, an MIT economist who was a co-author of the paper, said in an interview that a software developer's job could change over the longer term, so that the human coder became a kind of project manager overseeing multiple AI assistants. In that case, wages could rise as the human became more productive, and AI could still end up expanding employment among coders if cheaper software led to even greater demand. So there is still hope for all of you computer science graduates watching my video. Still, at least in the near term, many tech executives and their investors appear to see AI as a way to trim their staffing. A software engineer at a large tech company who declined to be named for fear of harming his job prospects said that his team was about half the size it was last year, and that he and his coworkers were expected to do roughly the same amount of work by relying on an AI assistant. Overall, the unemployment rate in tech and related industries jumped by more than half from 2022 to 2024 to 4.4% from 2.9%. This is wild. Imagine losing half of your team. I know we saw an example of that with Wells Fargo, but if your employer lays off half of your team, who's to say that they wouldn't be willing to lay you off as well? So there's been a ton of talk over the last few years that AI is going to impact jobs, and I think we're starting to see now that that's not in the future. It's happening. It is here. I am so curious to see how this plays out. Is AI just going to take everyone's job, or are there going to be new forms of work that replace jobs like this? This isn't the first time in American history that a new technology has made people worried about losing their jobs. I mean, it happened with personal computers as well. It happened with the internet as well. And I'm sure that people did lose their jobs when that happened too. And I wasn't around for that. I mean, I don't think I look that old. But the people who were around for when that happened, they all seem to think that this time is different. And that's a little worrying to me. I don't think we'll be able to get the full scope of AI's impact on the job market until 2 to 3 years down the road. So it's the kind of thing where we're just going to have to wait and see. Yes, jobs are being cut, but it's not a catastrophic amount of jobs yet. And I think we do have some time before we get to that point, thankfully. But also, AI tends to improve faster than people think it will, so there's really just no way of knowing what is going to happen. Then there are Mr. Trump's attempts to remake the federal government, which have so far resulted in job losses and hiring freezes for federal employees and employees at universities and other nonprofits that rely on government funding. Johns Hopkins University, which relies heavily on federal research funding, announced this month that it was laying off 2,000 workers worldwide as a result of Trump's cuts. That is crazy. I didn't even hear about that one. There's been a lot of news about universities having their funding put at risk, put under review. There was the situation with Columbia, but 2,000 employees. I mean, that has to make up a significant chunk of their total employee count. And like we talked about earlier, those 2,000 workers, they could cause the ripple effect of they're going to be in full save money mode now. So maybe they don't take a vacation this year. That's less money going into the economy. And if we've learned anything on this channel, it's that when people become unemployed in 2025, they tend to be unemployed for a while because just the state of this job market that we're in. Professor Katz of Harvard noted that a larger portion of college-educated workers depended on the federal government for their jobs than other groups, either directly or through the funding of nonprofits. What appears to be a major contraction of spending on science and research, on education by the government, that is going to potentially have a very large impact, he said. The overall unemployment rate for college graduates doesn't look particularly elevated, he added, but it may be in the next 6 months. Oh boy, that is an ominous way to end this article. I mean, yeah, in all honesty, some of the statistics that we saw, they didn't look too bad. I think it said that unemployment for college graduates, it went from 2% to 2.6% since September 2022. And I know that that is a lot of people, but compared to the kind of catastrophic predictions we've gotten about AI and its impact on the job market, it's not terrible yet. It's a lot of people losing their jobs, but it's not terrible just yet. Overall, I would say that there is obviously less demand for college graduates in the current job market than there was, let's say, 10 years ago. The sectors of the economy that need workers, that's changing. There's less of a need in tech. I think I've made that abundantly clear on this channel. Again, I think it's that combination of there are more people with a college degree now than ever before, but also companies are finding ways to do the work of entry-level candidates without actually having entry-level candidates at the company. And it makes you question, after a while, they're going to run out of people who are at the mid-senior to senior level in their career who can do those jobs. So what's going to happen then? Or is AI just going to become so smart that it can do anybody's job? And at that point, what happens then? Will nobody have a job? I don't know. It's going to be a crazy ride watching the news cycle from here on out, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on everything we covered in this video. Are you in a union or not? What sectors of the economy are you looking for work in, and how is that going? How long have you been job searching for? And also, what video games are you playing these days? Because we touched on that as well. So thank you all for listening to me ramble for the past, 15, 20 minutes. And subscribe if you enjoyed, and financial freedom will prevail. See you.